Okay, I'm gonna start to talk about groups of birds that you're likely to encounter in the Puget Trough in the context of the AOS checklist of North and Middle American birds. The AOS checklist is the definitive reference for learning your bird taxonomy in this program, and it's updated regularly. And so it's also important to know that it's organized in taxonomic in order that reflects evolutionary history, or at least what we currently know and have as the best knowledge for the evolutionary history of birds, so that the groups that you find at the beginning of the list branched apart from other groups of birds further back in time. And the groups that you find at the very end of the list are more recently derived groups of birds. And so as I'm talking through these groups, I'm talking from the more ancestral groups to the more recently derived groups. So we're not going to be encountering the first order here in the Pacific Northwest, but we will encounter another very ancestral group of birds called the Anseriformes. And the Anseriformes is an order of birds that includes ducks, geese, and some other really interesting birds that we don't find around here. The only family that we find representatives of in the Pacific Northwest is in family Anatidae, and that includes ducks and geese. And so if you see ducks and geese in the area, you'll be learning different genera, different Latin names, depending on what you're observing, but all are in the family Anatidae and order Anseriformes. Moving forward just a little bit, really not even that much in time, another very early group of birds or ancestral group of birds are the Galaiformes. And Galaiform birds are your pheasants, quail, grouse, and turkeys. And so within the Galaiformes, there's several families. The ones that have representatives in our area include Odontophoridae. Odontophoridae are your quail, and we have California quail that can be found in areas. And Pheasants. Pheasants are your pheasants, including what we call old world pheasants that include chickens and peafowl and francolins and some other birds that have representatives here that have become naturalized but have been introduced from other parts of the world. We also have Tetraonynae, which is a subfamily. You don't have to know your subfamily, but within Pheasants, we do have some native grouse, including sage grouse and also different species of ptarmigan. We also have turkey here. They're in another subfamily within Pheasants. No flamingos here, so we'll skip the next order. But the order after that, Apodiformes. Okay, that is an order that includes grebes, and there's only one family with representatives here, and that's Apodiformes, and it's the only family within the order that has North and Middle American birds in it. And there are, you could possibly find grebes in each one, I believe, of these, except for maybe the first genera that are listed here. So there's several species of grebe, including pied-billed and western. Okay, down to Columbiformes. Columbiformes are pigeons and doves. And mourning dove and rock pigeon are our two most common examples, but we also have band-tailed pigeons here, and we'll be keeping an ear and an eye out for them as spring progresses. And so within Columbiformes, that is family Columbidae. Cuckooliformes, there are cuckoos very rarely in Washington State, and you're unlikely to encounter any. Although if you're in another part of the country, you might encounter a cuckoo. Caprimulgiformes. These are the nightjars, and we have a couple of species that you could encounter if you're fortunate enough in family Caprimulgidae, and including the common nighthawk and some others. Okay, And I will stop after this next order, Apodiformes. And I'm not giving a lot of review of Latin terminology, but Apodiformes means without feet, a group of birds without feet. And these are the two major groups within Apodiformes are birds that are very strong flyers and that actually don't spend a whole lot of time perching, at least when they're active. And so this includes your hummingbirds and your swifts, are aerial masters of the bird world. And so family Apodidae are our swifts. Fox swift is our most commonly found swift out here. And then you can see there are a number of swifts in North and Middle America. And then family Trochilidae. These are our hummingbirds, and Rufus and Annas are our most common here in the Puget Trough region. Annas are really interesting in that they've expanded their range into the Pacific Northwest in the recent decades and become pretty common. When they were originally just primarily resident in California. But the other interesting thing about Trochilidae is not just their amazing mastery of flight, but the fact that they're an entirely new world, so Western Hemisphere group of birds, and they're incredibly diverse. So this ability for this hovering flight to specialize on nectar has allowed them to become highly specialized, particularly in tropical regions, on certain types of flowers. And so I'm just going to scroll through the Trochilidae here so you can see how many species there are. So many different species. Okay, lots of species. Okay, and so I'll pick this up with another set of reviews in another video.